welcome back to the Better Men, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us, especially those for returning to us, and welcome. Glad you're here for the people who are visiting us for the first time. Thank you guys for sharing. Our podcast is really just a dime for those kind of group that are kind of are guardians of the game, guys that are trying to grow the game for the right reasons, are in it for kids, not only from a physical standpoint, from a person standpoint, because all of our kids, all of our guys will be men after their baseball careers. And today's conversation is with Phil Rhodes, head coach of Frederick High School in Frederick, Maryland. And Coach Rhodes does it as well as anyone for preparing and having a great perspective on his players becoming men and becoming better people once their baseball careers is done. For a little bit about Coach Rhodes, for those people who don't know him, like I said, he is the current head coach. This is his 30th season at Frederick High School. 2009, they were the state champions. And just talking to Coach Rhodes and knowing the type of guy he is, it's just not what he's really all about. Those things have happened because of great players that he has and the system that he puts in place. He talks about his camps. But Coach Rhodes has a great family, I should say a family tree, coaching tree. There's five head coaches, very good head coaches, state championship head coaches, and even another assistant coach that could be head coach anywhere, have all played, either been a part of Coach Rhodes' program. He's been married for 36 years to his wife, Beth. He's got a son who played for him, and had a daughter-in-law, Jack Parker, Maddox, his daughter, who was also the manager for him at Frederick, as well as his son-in-law, Will, and with their son, James, and Avery, their daughter, Avery. And, but, I go and talk to him about his biggest accomplishments, and that's what he meant to say. And that's what it's important to him that was what's part of his biography, is his family. And, I'm just wanted to feel I needed to share that just to kind of give you a little glimpse of the kind of man Coach Rhodes is. He's had some of the best assistant coaches, trainers, administration. He just wanted to make sure he was part of that. Is his 30 years at Frederick, and you hear him say this a lot, but he's had 30 years of fun, is what Coach Rhodes would like to say. But you hear that him say a lot. Is just, this is what's fun about high school, and it's what's fun about his program. And you hear him say those things a lot. He's got some great perspective, and as a guy in our state that is a leader, is a mentor to a lot of young coaches, and as a guy when I got involved with the high school program, coaching high school is the guys that you need to get close to, and Coach Rhodes was one of those guys. He knows it from he's been involved at the state level, at the state baseball committee level, helping with rules, helping try to create the best game that we can within the rules, and as well as just being an advocate for his players, showing up for them, doing what he can on and off the field. So hope you enjoy this conversation. Coach Rhodes is a rock star, and really thankful to have him a part of this conversation today, and I hope you do as well. He gives into a lot of great things, such as parent involvement and what he does there. Just the process of being able to make rules at the state level, because like I said, he's sat on the baseball committee for the state and what that means, and I think those are valuable insights, as well as just what he felt the best thing for his program was in the past 30 years. And he dives into his summer camps and how he's also creating more instinctual baseball players. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Coach Rhodes and our great conversation. So again, thank you, Coach Rhodes. And without further ado, here he is, Coach Phil Rhodes from Frederick High School in Maryland.
What are the biggest accomplishments that I've had for baseball is obviously being at Frederick High School for 30 years, and obviously my wife and family are top of the thing there. And again, even though I've had the year where we won the state championship, and I've had years where we've won 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
But and I know a lot of people will sit there and look at, hey, that 09 team, or hey, that 2005 team you had was really good. I was like, yeah, but you know what? That team I had in 2018 and 17, that those guys barely won a game. And I take those guys in battle with me any day, because they showed up every day. They worked really hard. They believed that they were going to win. They were just tremendous kids. So it's all fun.
Yeah, well, that's like I said, it's all perspective too. Like, and what we measure success in is very, very different. I know you measure your success in a very different way. Just like I think one of the things is like your coaching tree. I think that could even be something to be part of your bio. And I think your legacy is the guys that, have kind of come from, the Coach Rhodes tree, so who are those guys? I know you got a handful of guys that are head coaches besides Frowney.
And Gross.
And Gross, right?
And I did Mike O'Brien at Tuscarora, played at Frederick High School. Sam Mills was at Oakdale, was one of my assistant coaches. Obviously, and I wish I could take credit for Mike Franklin. He was an assistant coach for me for a year at Frederick High School. So he was there. And then there was an assistant coach, but I don't know if he's still there. Jason Mobley was an assistant coach down at Brunswick for a number of years, and I'm not sure if he's still doing it.
Mo's definitely down there.
He was one of my players the first couple of years I was coaching. So.
Oh, really? He's a Frederick guy. I thought he was born and raised Brunswick, but
no, man, oh man, I'll tell you what, the only guy I ever saw hit the ball over the press box at McCurdy Field.
Oh yeah, I'd imagine that. Yeah, I've gone into some battles with him, especially with the Braves at Adult League, and yeah, I'm sure that happened.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised there.
So.
Yeah, I just think your tree is I think one of just the better ones in our area. And just I think it just speaks to the person you are. And I think, like you said, like just your definition of success, man, and how you're able to. Have you seen anything from your players? I know you've sent a couple players on too. Have any of your players wanted to get into the coaching bug and things like that you've had?
Well, I've had a couple that have come back to help a little bit. Jason Freshour, who I had one of the first couple of years, ended up going to WVU and then played some minor league ball. He's probably the best player I've ever coached. He was incredible. But he came back and he helped coach with me for a couple of years as well. And obviously, and I was very fortunate that my son came back to help coach, which was a lot of fun too. So, I'll always get those guys. I know David Canada, who played for me a few years ago, came back and actually, unfortunately, wanted to come in our staff, but we didn't have a spot for him available. Then he did go over. He actually helped down at Urbana, and then ended up over at TJ with Billy Gross. So it's fun to see them, and and some of them I've even seen doing some youth baseball, and some of the either Little League or with the travel teams. I know Billy Raymond helps out with the Hustlers, and so it's fun to see those guys, and those guys were such great baseball guys, and it's really exciting to see them carry these things on to their players now, and watch those guys from afar a little bit, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I bet it is. It's just, and I guess for me, I don't know, the whole time you're just saying that, I think, because I mentioned to a couple of guys in my circle and things like that. Like I said, I was talking to Dave Warrenfeldt and said I was going to talk to Coach Rhodes, and when Coach Rhodes comes to mind, and I think with a lot of these guys is that just like when you were talking about this, and you just think about like what you're leaving behind. I think like you've kind of sprinkled yourself, a little bit all over the place, and it's just really neat to see, and like I said, I really appreciate the time you've given me, always the time and to talk, and just the leadership and what you've done at our state. It's been great. Because you've done a couple roles. I know that have you been on the committee? You've done the committee stuff. I know that you work a lot of the state events as well as just being a coach. So you really try and put yourself out there in a number of roles.
Correct. Yeah, I have been the 3A regional chair. I am the on the state baseball committee, and actually up until last year, and I actually handed it over to Billy Gross. I was on the MPSSA Student Athlete Leadership Committee as well. So, and I still help out with that group. But yeah, so it's been fun to be a part of that and to see how the state, some of the challenges and things that we've been going throughout these years with, the pitching rules and all this stuff that that are coming to pass, and obviously the challenges we have today with the COVID. So
sure. Now, because I mean, I've been fortunate to talk to some other coaches from other states too. So speaking of that, like I guess maybe diving into that. I know that's something I didn't really even think about questioning you about that, but like,
that's all right.
What's your experience been like with that? Being on the state committee. I know, like, there's guys that would love to, how do those things work? How have you seen change, good, positive change? What kind of changes do you think we could still make to grow the game in Maryland?
Well, it's an interesting situation to be in because, as a coach and and being a person that's on a committee, you are obviously, giving out this information that we're passing on and sharing it, and the other things are to try to get ideas from other coaches in our area. Say, hey, this is what we may be thinking. What do you got? What's your thoughts on these things? So it's a little bit of a challenge because you have to play the intermediate. You can't, because there are a lot of people that would love for baseball to start later in the season, not start March 1st, that it actually wouldn't start till April and all these other things. The challenge with that is that whatever happens in high school athletics for baseball in the spring is also going to happen with every other sport as well. So, those are some of the challenges because you have to remain level with everybody. It is, what we would certainly like to see. What I would like to see is to have a little bit more opportunity in playoffs. I'd rather it be a double elimination than a single elimination. I think that would give us more of a true champion because, high school goes based on your pitching. And I think that, how that, sometimes how that lines up. Now, the good and the bad news is that we do have the new pitching rules. Okay. So the good news about that is that, we've always seen some coaches, unfortunately, in the past, before we had the pitch rules, they were throwing their kids a lot.
Sure.
And you're like, oh, this is not a good thing. So the good thing is it kind of pulls those guys back to keeping their kids safe. The challenge with that is, I think as we go, I think we need to look at the numbers and statistics with that to possibly push it a little bit farther, because it is and to see if it's possible, because the one thing that is a challenge with these pitching rules is that, you know, if one kid throws on a Monday, if he throws, you know, his max on a Monday, he's done for the rest of the week. Is based on our schedules. The next time he could pitch again is Saturday, and we don't play on Saturdays. So I think for high school baseball, it's a little bit of a challenge, because not every team is blessed with pitching depth, and this can really get to be a strain for some teams. And I know that everybody's adopted, as well as we have. You know, the first question I ask the kids nowadays is, "Who's a pitcher?"
Right.
And my answer is, everybody is. So we train everybody to be a pitcher, because you may need to go in there and throw an inning for us. So it is a bit of a challenge with that. So I think hopefully we'll look at those numbers, and some statistics will come out to see whether we could extend a little bit, because there are different states that do allow a little bit more in that number than we do. Now, we have always kept track of our kids, and I almost like to see kind of maybe even a gradual, because what we've typically done throughout the years is we've limited our kids at the very beginning of the season, and then as the season progressed, then we would extend them a little bit farther.
Sure.
So I'd almost like to see some type of a progression that, hey, at this time of the season, now we can move them up to this many pitches instead of. So I think that would be a move in a good direction. That way people are allowing their pitchers to work, and then it's kind of like running a marathon, right? I always tell the kids, I said it's like running a long distance run. You know, we have to. If you went out and ran a half marathon today and you haven't never run one, you're going to be in bad condition. So you need to train, and you need to get yourself conditioned for that. So the same thing as a pitcher. We need to have you throwing, and then later on the season, that's when we'll start extending, because we've always had, even before the pitching, some kids are like, "Oh, coach, I'm ready."
Yeah.
And then it's tough, because we also have kids that we know that with the high school season, it's a short window of time. And we've always had kids that are baseball only. And when they show up on March 1st, they've been throwing some, so they're ready. Right. But then we have the kid that's a basketball player who has thrown very little, if any. So understanding where those are, I think that the pitch count helps a little bit with making sure those guys don't overthrow. But so we'll see. It's an interesting situation. I would honestly, the other thing that I'd like to see as a possibility for high school baseball is to have the option of having not practices, but possibly even a makeup game on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Because there are, high school baseball, 1 week could just it could rain for a week, and now you're really, really backed up. Mm-hmm. So I would like it to have the option to at least do a makeup game. Like I said, we don't need to practice that day. We could regulate that, but if we could just have a makeup game opportunity, I think that might help us, because there are sometimes we obviously the last couple of years, snow has not been an issue, but we've had some years where there's been rain and snow, and I think it was 2 years ago, where I think it was the first year, I'm starting my 30th year at Frederick High School, and 2 years ago was the first season that we didn't have our first game until April because of the weather. Yeah. And everybody was concerned that we weren't going to get our minimum number of games in. fortunately, we were able to get those in, but had we had some more weather in there, it might have been a factor. But I think if we were to have that as an available day, I think that also helps with our pitchers, because then we can spread things out. Because right now, if I get a rain out, we're typically playing on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If I get a rain out, or something from the week before, now I'm probably either playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I've got usually, I'm going to have 3 days in a row where I've got games, and and managing your bullpen in that 3 days with the pitching restrictions is a big challenge.
For sure, and especially if you don't even have the arms, to do it, and it's just going to be, so games just aren't going to be as good as they could be, for sure. But yeah, I like what you're saying about at least having the option of just making makeup games on Sundays. I mean, that'll be a good plan. I was interested to hear that I guess all sports have to start at that March 1st date, when we our first play date. Do all sports have to end the same date?
No, they don't end the same date. I believe tennis ends earlier than, because I think baseball, softball, and track all have their state championships on the Memorial Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Tennis, I believe, is before that. And again, the same thing even in the fall. All the fall sports start at the same time, and the soccer state championships are the first or second week of November, where the football state championships is the first weekend in December. And so they don't have to end the same time, but
yeah, because I wonder if that could be an option where, baseball, give you the month to prepare for your pitchers, March 1st, April, then games aren't going to start till April, and then you just push your, you go 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later into, after Memorial Day, and that could also be an option too, just because of the safety of it.
It's going to be an interesting test this year because of the COVID. Now the end of our season is June 19th.
Right.
So
is that still pushing forward? Is that still going to be the day?
That as of this moment, it's still, yeah. They have June 19th is the last play date. I think it's a Saturday in June. And there's some talk about still having state championships involved in that. So we'll see how that goes.
So that's last play date and then starting playoffs?
No,
that's it. Is that the 19th? The 19th is the state championship, is what you mean?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, because I know, just from a summer standpoint, there's some teams that are there's tournaments that week. I know that, like that June 15th week and things like that. So
well, yeah, and that's it's going to be an interesting season to see how this works, because again, typically we're done,
right,
and a lot of the travel teams are beginning during that time. It's kind of how it's kind of worked. But also some of the other challenges are, for example, myself at Frederick High School, I've got a number of kids that play travel, but I also have kids that play in the local Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
And a lot of the JV players will play on and may play on that local Babe Ruth. And typically our season has about a 2-week overlap between the varsity and the JV season. But now it's going to have over a month of overlap, and how that is going to affect each other is going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Plus the fun and challenging issue is graduation,
right?
Because all the kids, when I told the kids, hey, the last day is June 19th, and they said, well, the seniors are graduating. And I said, well, yeah. I said, you guys are actually out of school before then as well.
Right.
So that's going to be a challenge to see, hey, we've got kids that are playing in these other programs, and how are the seniors going to? Are they still going to want to play when they've graduated? So it's going to be an interesting season to see how things go. I think it would be important to have a state championship, because if we don't have a state championship and we just play a regular season, then I think players are more likely to opt out.
Yeah, you're saying like after that graduation.
Yeah, because
like if they got like a showcase or they got something like that June 15th.
Yeah.
And I've paid so much money to do this.
Right.
That's, it will be very tough, especially like you said, if you're not really playing
Correct.
For anything. And really like what would the consequence be?
Correct.
If a kid didn't, and then that was your last game, like it would be bad look for the kid, but at the same time, like knowing a guy like yourself or like Frank, like I think guys that have a good head about their shoulders, like what might be the best situation for this kid in the future. Like you said, if he's a kid that does want to do baseball in the future, this might not be the best place for him at this moment at June 15th.
Yeah.
That is very tough.
And he may get more looks at people at this other opportunity. So it's going to be and there could certainly be some ways to work through it, but the biggest challenge are the kids that pitch.
Yeah.
Because
always.
So if we are going to work together, that hey, my varsity team and these travel or local Babe Ruth teams are going to work together, we have to communicate on who's throwing when, because the worst thing is that we don't want to hurt somebody. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
How hard is it to make these kind of like, is it like if there's something that's needed to be made change, like can the change be made in a month? Does it take a 6 months process? Is it a year process? Like, let's say you wanted to, like you said, like this thing goes well, you can play till the 18th. So next month they want to do the double elimination tournament. How fast of a process is that to take?
It's actually a very slow process, because the issues with state athletics is that everything is in the Maryland State
COMAR, right?
bylaws. So all the COMAR issues. So everything has to be changed. So what they even did for this school year for athletics is they've just for this year allowed teams to have the availability of picking somebody up. So all of a sudden, if I'm supposed to play a team from Carroll County, and Carroll County shuts school down and their baseball team isn't going to function, then hey, I might be able to find somebody else. Where typically in the high school seasons is once your season starts, you can't add anybody to your schedule.
Do you think like that? I mean, hopefully with this happening, like that should be a regular rule. Like because things happen, people get shut down or whatever. And I should be able to go find my other games if I need to be, instead of just being like, no, you can't do that. Like, I mean, like, hopefully, like those are maybe some things that's going to stay. Like, this is not a bad rule. This is only helping kids.
Yeah. And I think that the challenge is that you have to understand that if you are going to change a rule, the unfortunate thing is you can't change rules for a sport. So when you think of a rule, you're going to say, how does it affect
track
football? How does it affect cross country? How does it affect volleyball, tennis, all these others? Because the state, again, is only going to do something that is a benefit to everybody.
Okay.
So,
is that unique to Maryland? Do you know, is that unique to our state? So are other states very just everybody just makes rules for their sport, or is that just unique to Maryland that we make rules for every sport and every sport has to live in this box?
That's a good question. I don't know, because it's interesting because there's so many. When I've talked to coaches from other states, it seems that Maryland is much more restrictive than many other states.
Oh, they 100% are. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I go to a coaching clinic and I talk to somebody from any state, whether it could be one of our adjoining states or from other state, hey, they've got a fall workout, or they've got a fall season,
Right.
and it might only be a couple weeks, but they're able to do that. Or again, for us in Maryland, for in spring sports and in baseball, we start March 1st, and our first game is March 21st. So we've got 3 weeks.
Not even with this, they can't do anything on Sundays.
I know, you can't do anything.
It's a little less than 3 weeks.
Yeah, so you got a little less than 3 weeks to get everything ready, get your pitchers ready, get everything in, and probably realistically, you're going to be lucky if you get a week on the field because of weather.
And then you can throw in the meet the team nights or picture day or
and
those kind of things you're going to have.
Correct. And where you talk to coaches from other states, and it's January 1, they're allowed to start doing some workouts.
And they have like a 5-week preseason. Like a 5-week preseason where you could just take your time, get your pitchers ready to rock and roll. Season rolls and we're ready to go. Besides what they had in the fall too, the 4 weeks or whatever they might have had in the fall too.
I think Maryland's concern, and this is justified because I could certainly see these too, is that if they were to let me start, let's say they let me start working out February 1, and then our first games are still March 21st.
Yeah.
I think it's the kids that are the multi-sport athletes that they're concerned about. So again, you got the basketball player who doesn't have the opportunity to do it. And I think they're afraid that some sports coaches may say, hey, you got to make a choice. Are you going to be a basketball player? Or are you going to be a baseball player? Okay. Because you need to be here. And I think that they're trying to, I think these rules are set so that it for the most part eliminates that controversy where when our season starts, the basketball season is usually in the first or second week of the playoffs, so they're almost finished anyway. So I think I think that's the concern, that they don't want people to make things mandatory because again it can challenge a young athlete to what is it that they're going to do. And some coaches may, like I said, kind of lay the law down and say, hey, you're either playing for us or you're playing for them. What is it going to be? So
yeah, I can understand that. I guess there's always two sides of even that. It was like thinking about, well, if you do this, would it help the game? If we extended these things, would it just help the play? Would it help that kid to even be a better basketball player? If yes, so you may have chosen to do that, or maybe would he have the opportunity to even practice baseball then to kind of get ready before that? Because if he was playing basketball, and like I don't know, I think it presents so many different perspectives on it as well. But I wasn't expecting to kind of go down this route, and I know that I was just looking at the stuff that you were just saying. I know the administrative stuff that you've had, and I think it's so unique because not many people understand it, and everybody wants to have an opinion on it. But like you have the real, kind of insight, to this kind of process, and just helping bring awareness, I think, to Maryland's process. And like I think the huge thing of Maryland, every sport fits in. I just think that's a huge response, to like, yeah, we'd love to make this thing for baseball, but then it's got to be for track and field too. It's going to have to be for lacrosse. It's going to be for football, like that's, that's a pretty unique thing. And now, yes, it's Maryland law. Like all of our things are Maryland law, which I don't know I think that's a very unique thing as well, because them going through Maryland, any kind of law, a law's not supposed to be fast. Like all this stuff, even with COVID and all, like these things take time. Like, and our government's made to do that for the checks and balances. So it's just very unique about it, and it's what's so tough. But like I can't tell you like how I even talked to the conversation I've had. I'm like, but I always feel such a thing of my job is to also help grow the game and be a guardian of the game, and to help, show the value of high school sports. And, when we shrink it down to saying, well, we're only going to do this, like, it just shows there's not a value there. And so we're not, our actions say that, the rules say that we're not valuing it as much. And so, yes, I'm going to go over here and play this sport and go play with this other team, because that doesn't seem like it's a big value. Like, no one's really caring as much. And I don't know, that's kind of always been my thing of, like, I feel like we're close to saying, people saying, like, high school, like, I can go do this and not worry about high school, and I can still go on.
Yes.
And that's awful. And that's awful for anybody to think. And I don't want that. Like, there's something for playing for your school. There's something playing for your town, your community. There's values that you do with Coach Rhodes that people cannot do in the summer. It takes a really special person to do it during the summer and the fall. But you can preach the values. You can do those things. And so I go in the terms of that. Like, this is so much more important for those reasons, for the values and the things that we are teaching these kids through high school that you can't really get through rec programs, through the senior league, through the legions, through the travel programs. The great ones can do it because they spend so much time with them. But it still takes a coach to want to be able to teach like that. You know what I mean?
High school is fun. High school is fun. And I tell the kids all the time, I said, hey, the one thing is, when you look back, when everybody looks back, I played high school ball, and I played Legion, and for a couple other different groups. But I was telling them, I said, one thing that everybody looks back to is your high school career. And remember those times that you played a high school athletic contest and all your buddies, and because the other part of it too is which is really special about high school is that you are playing for the most part, most of the people you're playing with are kids that you grew up with and you've known most of your entire life.
Sure.
And so, I think that makes a special bond as well, because it's, and again, it's nice to be able to play on other teams with other people that you didn't grow up with, and different programs, whether it be a Babe Ruth or Legion or a travel team. Those are fun, and they're great opportunities. But high school, again, you get to play with the guys that you grew up with, and again, I think it's a special opportunity.
It is, and that's what I said. I think having that kind of mindset on the forefront of making like this is like, here's how we're showing it's valuable. Here's how we're showing how much important, how unique it is, and we don't want it to go away. We don't want it to go away. We don't want to lessen it anymore, and that's just all. Like, it's just because sometimes you see the state and what we do, and it's, they hamstring us or restrict us so much that you think that you're just not valuing what we're trying to do, and by maybe trying to protect something is also maybe devaluing what we're doing as well. Right. I don't know. It's just very unique situation, and I know, like you said, it's you have to play this intermediate hat, like we're like, as a coach, I'm sure you want to go in and do all of these things. And then it's a very, very unique position.
Yeah. It's, it's fun. It's fun. I enjoy it. And
good. And so now you said Billy Gross is now, so you're not, so now Billy Gross is taking over that.
He's taken over. He's taken over the student athlete leadership committee chair for our area. So he's doing that. And he's helped me. I'm getting to the part of my career where I've started to let a few things. I was like, okay, now I'm going to hand this. I'm going to turn this one over. I'm turning this over. So actually, this spring will actually be my last coaching at Frederick High School.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So I made that announcement to my players and coaches and the other local guy, with Frowny and Billy and all those guys. They all know that now. Obviously, the funny part is I've had several offers to they tell all these other coaches are telling me how good I would look in their school colors.
I'm sure they will. I think Frowny, I say, so yeah, I talked to Frowny, and I think he actually said that as well. Like, I think he might come over here and be okay. I think that's what he might have said too. I'm not surprised. Not surprised. Oh man, that's great.
They're all great guys and great coaches. I'm telling you. And the fun part is again, I've had this opportunity to coach against, I've been in several different conferences, the CMC and then the MVAL, and then that's back to the CMC, all these different where, I started off playing against a lot of Carroll County teams. And then it was just Frederick County, and now it's Frederick and Washington County. And so it's been fun. And, and I guess my approach has always been that, I've always enjoyed talking to coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy watching coaches because, year in and year out, I think the key is you can't get complacent. There's so many people that get stuck on the way things are. Well, this is the way I've always done it.
Mm-hmm.
And, watching coaches and how they do things and of how they do a warm up, how they might practice, how, what they do situationally is fun for me to watch. And plus, again, the competitor in me is, all right, now I'm going against this coach today, and this is going to be, to me, that's fun. Mm-hmm. Because now it's it's a little bit of a chess match, but it's also fun because now I'm coaching. These last few years, been coaching against these guys that played for me or had been a part of my program, and so it's kind of in some ways you got that hey, I'm really proud of these guys, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna feel bad beating them.
Yeah.
But the fun part is even though these guys have come up and they have shared information with me, hey, look at this drill or whatever. Frowny and I have gone to clinics together, and hey, look at this new thing, and so. The best part is get to coach against these guys, but also we're all willing to share that information, and also with these young guys that have been with me before, or sharing stuff with the old guys. So
that's great. That is good. That's why I think it's one of the best of like what I think baseball does. And I know that you've probably seen multiple sports, and especially being in your role, knowing all those different sports. I just think there's something about baseball in our fraternity. Like we're able to share so many things and look at that's what I love about our game, especially our coaches.
Oh yeah, it is. And again, you've coached in this area as well. This is a fun place area to coach because I've always told my kids for 30 years, we don't have that team that we can just walk in and say, all right, we're going to throw our number 3 or 4 and we're just going to walk through this team. Our schedule, playing against, our county, Washington County, and Carroll County, every day we go in, we have to earn our wins. Mm-hmm. There's no, all right, we're just going to go in and beat the snot out of this team, and we're just going to get a win out of this. I think that's it's fun. It makes certainly is challenging. It makes us better in the long run because we get to compete day in and day out. So it's fun.
So you talk a lot about competing and things like that, are there ways that you try to help your guys compete in your program? Is that one of the things that you love, that you try to instill mostly in your program?
Oh yeah. Well, the fun part is, and I tell my kids this all the time, because we do stuff during the off season. Mm-hmm. And again, it's different for different teams. So, years ago we used to have in the fall, we used to have a flag football day. We had a big tournament.
Yeah.
And another year we had one guy who was a tremendous bowler. So we were bowling. Another year we had a kid who never played baseball before. He was from Sri Lanka.
Wow.
Played cricket.
Oh,
Okay?
wow.
Guy could not play defense, but he could hit. Okay.
Nice.
But he taught us how to play cricket. And then we probably the one that we do the most is we play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
We do play a little pickleball and things like that too. But because I tell the kids, I say, you know what, I like to see you play other sports and other activities, and I want to see how you compete in everything, because again, because I always tell them, I said, I don't care if I could be playing you in in Chinese checkers. I'm going to have fun, but I'm going to win.
Yeah.
I'm here to win.
Right.
I'm going to have fun doing it. And at the end of the day, all's good, but I'm going to win. I said, so I like to watch, I like to see your competitiveness during the other times, but then also during practice, we try to implement contests. We try to do on kind of a daily basis at a practice, have some type of a challenge. A lot of times they get down to hitting challenges, and because we're trying to get the kids to understand where pitches are and where we should be hitting them, and the quality of that. But it could be, hey, we're doing ground balls, and who's got the most ground balls at during the day or at this position. Just all kinds of little competitions, because having the competitions in the practice livens it up a little bit. Also puts a little pressure on them, which they need to have. And again, we have a lot of fun. There are some days we have prizes, and some days we don't. Some days it might be, your team doesn't have to clean up today, whatever it may be. But
pays to be a winner.
We're really close to Rita's, and I'm like, hey, we can take you over to Rita's. And sometimes it's just even it can even be a team thing. We've had it where we've had some competitions, and the next day, I bring pizzas in or something. So, just as a fun reward. I think, the kids really enjoy those things. And then again, a lot of times there's not prizes with them, but when there is the prize every once in a while. And again, our team, we do a breakfast every Saturday morning before practice. So sometimes it might be coach buys breakfast for you on that day if you happen to win. So it's all kinds of fun stuff. So
no, that sounds awesome. So Saturday morning breakfast, let's get into that. Is that something? Is that for everyone, JV and varsity? Is it specifically for like maybe some leadership stuff you're trying to do? Is it like just a fellowship? What was the purpose there behind Saturday morning breakfast? We
started this probably about 15 or so years ago. And we started going out to this local diner for breakfast. And so because we typically have practice on Saturday morning around 9:30. We'll hit and do all that kind of stuff. But so we meet at this diner at 7:15 in the morning. And first of all, the kids always ask, why are we going at 7:15 in the morning? I said, because at this diner, if we show up at 7:30, we can't sit together because it's packed.
Wow.
So this is not a mandatory thing. It's opened up to every varsity JV player. Our managers come, coaches come, and anybody who wants to come. We've had guys bring their girlfriends to breakfast, and so does everybody come on Saturday? Not everybody comes, which is fine. And typically, what we do is obviously no cell phones during breakfast, and usually there's usually a few topics that I'll ask them. It might be, hey, if you were a car, what car would you be, and tell me why you'd be that car. Okay. And so everybody goes around the table and gives their answer. And not only do we learn things about them, but we have a lot of fun with it. And it's just kind of opportunities, because I also tell them that they can never not answer.
Okay.
Because my analogy to them is, I said, so when we win the state championship and the newspaper comes up to you and says, hey, what are you thinking right now? And you go, I don't know what to say. I said, you're gonna need to know what to say. And so we talk about how to answer questions. So, if you were a car, what kind of car would you be and why? I always tell them, so you start off with the question. So you give yourself time to think. If I were a car, I would be, and I said, that gives you a few seconds to think about what car you want to be. And I said, and honestly, you may be making this completely up, and that's okay. I said, because we want to get you to learn to think on your feet a little bit and to answer questions. And we have, we'll have a little bit of a challenge. Like we play the game. And if you know what the game is, I give them a topic to talk about, like, how would you make brownies? And they have to go for 30 seconds, or it might be a minute, and they can't use the word or as the answer. So they can't say, I'm going to do, and I said, oh, you're done. So it's a lot of fun. But obviously, the other parts too is we try to do a little bit of an opportunity to teach them something in there as well, and it's fun. We've had some people come in to talk. Hey,
oh, cool.
Here's a dad. Hey, Dad, tell us what your job is, and this guy comes in. He says, hey, I'm a mechanical engineer. And I will ask him, so from the time you were in high school to the time you were a mechanical engineer, what jobs did you have? And he goes, well, I worked at Burger King and I worked at a gas station. And so kind of the lesson is, there's other things that you're probably going to, don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed that if you happen to be working at Burger King or you're doing something now, it's just kind of the process. So it's a lot of fun. And honestly, the kids, and it's gotten to the point where we offer it every Saturday during the season. But now it's gotten to the point where we will meet once or twice a month during the off season, because they sit there and say, Coach, when are we having breakfast? Now, unfortunately, because of our situation, we haven't been able to have it. But because even I was talking to one of the kids the other day, and first thing he says, Coach, when are we going to have breakfast again? So they really enjoy it, and parents have come too, where they've sat there and have kind of watched to see what we're doing. So I think it's a fun thing.
Yeah, and I know that's something that you've a lot of coaches put a wall up there, and I know that's something that you went the other way, and you've kind of encouraged that, right? And with your parents and your parent involvement.
Correct.
Just speak on that. Like, what was like maybe the decisions you made there, or like maybe some of the how have you seen it really impact your program?
Well, I tell you, it was interesting because, again, I think every coach, here I'm beginning my 30th year, and when I look back to those first few years that you coach, you sit there and think, oh my goodness, I would have done that completely different. And and I think those first couple of years, I was very strict and so forth. But it got to the point where I was like, I need the kids to trust me and talking to people and listening to people and obviously with my faith and everything. The big thing was the trust factor. And so, I've gotten to the point where, I think the communication that I have with the kids is I'll talk to them. I'm very upfront with them. But the biggest thing, again, even with the parents, because I used to be that guy who goes, I'm going to keep the parents kind of arm's length away. And I had listened to, and gosh, this was, again, probably 15 years ago or so. And it's still around. It was this program, it was called Champions of Character. And it was through the NAIA. And they had these different programs. One dealt with parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so with my parent meetings, I talk to parents, and one conversation is, hey, you're going to have to trust what we do, and don't, I was telling them, hey, after, if you pick up your son from a practice or a game, please don't ask them a bunch of questions. I said, they are physically and mentally drained. And I said, especially don't ask them questions. Why did Coach Rhodes do this?
Mm-hmm.
I said, because the problem with that is you now are creating friction for your son. Are they going to go with way you think, or the way Coach Rhodes thinks? And so I always tell them, I go, for example, if your son does something and you punish, let's say he does something and you take away their cell phone because they were late, maybe they came in late, you took away their cell phone, I would never sit there and say, wow, if you were my son, I would not have done that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would tell the parents, hey, make sure that you don't question what we do, and just be supportive. And I've even gone as far as I said, you know what? I've been a father of two athletes, my son and my daughter. And I said, before I watched this program, I said, I was the parent. I would sit there and, ask my kids, hey, what was Coach thinking? What was all these different questions. And so I said, I've changed it. And what a complete difference. I said, my son was in middle school and he was the quarterback of the football team, and he threw a horrible, horrible pass in a crucial time of the game that cost them the game. They ended up losing, threw an interception down by the goal line. And so after the game, the coach and me wanted to sit there and say, hey, what were you thinking? Why, what were you thinking in that play? But I was like, no, I had to kind of step back. And I said, hey, how'd it go today? And he goes, Dad, I think I ran the ball better today than I did during the entire season. I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. And that was the end of the conversation. Now, had he asked me a question, then I would be willing to answer it for him. But again, I didn't press those types of things with them. So again, I've encouraged them, parents, to be encouraging, but don't cause a division. But also, my parents too. I also I need you to be a part of us. Mm-hmm. So one of the rare things that I picked up at a clinic a number of years ago, and my parents do, is that after every game, they come out and rake the field after all of our home games.
That's awesome.
And I tell them, I say, hey, our kids, we're going to do our post-game run and stretch, and then we're going to have a quick little talk with them. I said, that's going to probably take 15, maybe 20 minutes. And if they have to come in and rake the field and everything, that's going to take another, 15, 20 minutes. I said, but if you guys can come out and rake, and I show them, we have a little thing before the season, how to rake correctly. I said, the kids will put the tarps on. I just need you to rake around home, rake the mound, fill in the clay, rake around the bases, and then we'll drag the rest of the field. And they come out. Now, I've had other coaches say, well, does everybody come out? And I said, well, not everybody comes out. Not everybody's dressed to do it. And they're going, well, I'm worried that if a parent comes out, they're going to feel that I owe them. And I go, then, that's not what the purpose is. And hopefully, you can get past that part. But again, I think those things are key. And again, I think the other thing that the parents appreciate is that I communicate with them weekly. I mean, I give them a schedule of, hey, this on Monday. This is what happens if we have practice. This is what happens if we have a game. If we're rained out, this is when we may have indoor practice. I give them the whole thing, and let them know ahead of time. And I tell them, because I learned this as well as a parent of an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
When I say practice is over, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had where my children have been with other coaches in other programs, where they say, hey, practice is over at 6, and either my wife or I are sitting in the parking lot still at 6:30, 7 o'clock, waiting for them to get done.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell them, when I say it's done now, there are some days as a coach, I sit there and go, oh man, I wish I had 15 more, but nope, this is it. So I think that's important. And then I think the other nice thing that I've had in the years that I've been here is, and I think this is important for the growth of your program, as well as it's a good community thing. And again, it helps with parents, is I've had a summer camp for a number of years. So I know parents before their kids come to my school. I know the kid, I know their parents, and that has helped with a lot of situations, where the parents know who I am, what we kind of stand for, and what we do. And that's the other thing, even in my parent meeting, is I tell the parents, I said, we do have some team rules, and we go over them with the kids. It's about respect. And this is part of that champions of character, respecting, respect, responsibility, integrity, servant leadership, and sportsmanship. And there's a couple other quick little things here and there, but we go over those. And again, I think the parents understand, because I always tell them, I go, you know what, if your son, I said, and I told him, I said, we've been very fortunate. We've really not dealt with many issues, because I think we kind of handle them as they go. I said, but I will tell you this, that if something happens, how I discipline your son may be different than how I discipline somebody else. I said, you may not know the background of this other athlete. So even though they both did the same thing, one person may or may not be penalized more severely than another. Mm-hmm. I said, you just have to trust my judgment. I said, and I always tell them, I said, if there's something that is over the top, then I will contact parent, and we have that conversation, and we've had those as well. And I think that communication and being out front has been really kind of the keys of the success with parents. I don't really have any issues, because you're always concerned whether parents are upset because their child's not playing, and we've kind of established with that, hey, if your son's not playing, please let us know, or have him come and see us, that these are decisions on what we're doing. And certainly if it gets to a point, we will have a conversation with them. But I think that we have been upfront with our kids too, where we've talked to them during the season and stuff, to tell them, hey, be ready, whatever, hey, or we like where you're heading. We're still working on this, whatever it may be. We don't. And I guess the other part too is I always tell the kids, I said, I don't like surprises, so I'm never going to surprise you. So if there's a situation where if you're a starter and I'm putting somebody in for you in a game, you're going to know that before you get to the field. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be, you're going to show up and, hey, surprise, surprise, this is what happens. So I think that the communication with everybody is the key. And again, I think that through all of this and the building relationships, all these things that we do, again, the touch football games, the basketball games, the breakfast, the kids get to see our coaching staff, because we answer all the crazy questions too. And they get to hear what we do, and they get to laugh at us. We laugh at them. I think that all of that, and we get to learn a little bit different things about them as well, outside of baseball.
Yeah, it seems like
one of these breakfasts. Yeah, not one of these breakfasts. I had a kid I found out was a professional little radio car racer. And I went to watch him one time.
Wow.
It was incredible. And he goes, yeah, I'm sponsored by this company for my tires and this company for my engines and this. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to San Diego in the summer for a big competition. It's like, what?
Wow.
And so I think that opportunity I always call it hanging out with everybody.
Yeah.
Makes a difference and open. So.
Yeah, it definitely. It seems like you out of all the conversations I have, and you hear like you have. It seems like you spend a lot of time with them outside of the game, and they see you as a person. They see, I call him Coach Rhodes, but it's really Mr. Rhodes. I kind of see him, and they're not even possibly seeing you as a coach when you're kind of hanging out and playing the games, playing football, kind of being another dad. Hey, let's just go out and play, and let's go play these games. And I think you definitely, as I say, a natural byproduct, that communication just kind of, it even resonates more over that. Do you have also, I guess, parents that come out to the flag football games and this basketball stuff? You guys, is this parents even involved in that as well?
They don't. They'll come out and watch, but
Okay.
they don't participate. And we kind of, they I think that they like that it's, that it's their kids' activity. But when we do have, like when we used to have the flag football tournament, we used to go in the football stadium, and we would have the two fields going towards both end zones, and they'd sit up there and watch the game. And so that it's, or when we had the bowling, like I said, we had this one kid who was an incredible bowler. And the other fun part is we get and our student managers come out and play and do all these things with us. Guys, girls, it's just it's just a fun time. I mean, it is always at the end of the season, I always tell the kids, when the season ends, I said, the worst part of the end of the season is, I said, I don't get to hang out with you guys on a daily basis, where I get to see you 6 days a week, and we're cracking jokes and we're having fun. We're having these little competitions, all these things. I said, so it's a little bit, and obviously with all that's going on now, we can't even get together and do all these things. It's tough to do. So.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, the relationships and the communication seem to be like two big things that are very important to you as a coach,
Right.
as a person. So like, I guess a lot of those seems to be very intentional. Like, I'm just going to meet these kids outside of here so I can help build a relationship. Is that really, did it kind of come from that?
Well, yeah, and I, the reality of it is high school sports is a very small window for those kids. And, I'm fortunate. I've been able to play high school sports, baseball now, going into the 30th year. So, I get to come back and do this again. But, the reality is the majority of those kids probably are not going to go on to play baseball. We've had kids that have done that, and they've done great. But Some are going to go be engineers. Some are going into the military. Some are going to work at their dad's car shop. These are special times. That's why, again, it's, you get, as I said before, these kids get to be with most of their buddies that they've grown up with, and this high school, situation is unique to anything because we don't get to pick and choose who comes to our school either.
Right.
So again, so I think because of this unique opportunity, it's an opportunity for us to create great memories for these guys, and hopefully some of the things that we're doing will be things that they'll continue to do as they get older and they become fathers and coaches and all these kinds of things, and kind of think back and say, hey, these were some of the fun things that we did. And because obviously the things that you think back about that were a lot of fun were typically are some of the things that might be the most important. And and so I think it's those are important to qualities to hopefully these guys carry on with them.
Awesome. Oh, so great. I guess wrapping things up here, because I know we've been over an hour, but I'm just thinking because I know we spent some time on the administration stuff with Maryland, but if there was something, because I you've been talked to baseball, I would say that is there anything else that you feel that you do really well that you think that you could offer advice to someone else? I think with the communication and relationship piece is you just hit the nail on the head, but is there anything else that you'd like to touch base on?
Wow, there are so many different things that are great opportunities. So again, I think for any high school coach, again, I think one of the best things was doing that summer camp. Yeah. Because we were able to.
Is it a week-long camp? Do you do it a week-long camp? Is it for certain ages or?
It's usually it's usually 7 to 12-year-olds. Okay. They're usually second grade to 7th or 8th grade. Although we've had some young kids, some kids that are 5-year-olds, because parents will sit there and say, "Hey,
little brother's here, the big brother."
I say, "Hey, bring them in if they." I was telling them, I say, "Hey, bring them in. If it works out, great. Don't even pay anything right now. If it works out, you pay me later. If it doesn't work out, we tried and it didn't work out." So
there you go.
But I think that opportunity not only helps, you build that relationship that you know the kids, you know their parents before they come to you. Second of all, you get an opportunity to provide some skills for them. But again, I think the other parts too is teaching them the game, because my biggest concern about the game, it's funny. I was at a coaching clinic a couple of years ago, and I was at one of the Q&As, and there were a couple college coaches up on the top, and somebody asked a question, said, "So what is it that why is it that the kids nowadays, the baseball players nowadays, just don't have that baseball instinct anymore?" And they were giving some of their answers, and they were good. And I was sitting in the front row, and I raised my hand and I said, "Well, I have my perspective if you want to hear it." And I said, "My perspective is, I think the difference is, again, and I'm an older guy, but when I grew up, we went out and we played with our friends, and we had to kind of figure things out." Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the kids that we have nowadays, from the time they're 5, 6, they're playing t-ball, machine pitch, coach pitch, kid pitch, all the way through. They've been on a team and they've been told exactly what to do all the way through. Where I think in the camp, and also we do this even in our practices, is that we'll have competitions, but we don't coach them. We make them understand situation, because again, some of them are so trained to go from A to B to C. Again, this is one of my favorite stories. I had a kid a couple years ago. We had a bunting drill. And I said, all right, I've given him the situation before I threw it. I say, hey, runner at first, no outs, late in the game, boom, sack bunt. Okay, first base, good. All right, good. Hey, runner second, no out, 0-0 count, late in the game, sack bunt, boom, he bunts it down third, sack bunt. Next kid comes up, I go late in the game, counts 1-0, runner at first. And I'm getting ready to throw, and the kid goes, Coach, what am I supposed to do? I go, what do you mean? What are you supposed to do? He goes, well, what am I supposed to do? I said, well, runner at first, late in the game. We're going to sack bunt. He goes, yeah, but the count's 1-0 now. It's not 0-0. I go, that's no different. And so, they're just, again, a lot of them are just so used to taking instruction that a lot of instincts are not in their DNA at this point. So we create opportunities for them to compete, and again, kind of that competition. We might sit there and say, hey, we got this group, and whoever scores the most runs, or we get points for extra base hits and defensive plays, an outfield assist. So we make them figure out strategy of the game that they're playing, because again, they're just so used to going A to B to C that we do that. So even in the camp, when we play games at camp, we play slow pitch, no strikeouts. Everything's got to make a play. So then like before every play, we'll say, hey, there's a runner at second, there's no outs. Where are we going to go with the ball if it's hit? So, hey, you're in left. What are you going to do with it? And then, so we kind of teach those situations, because they need to understand those situations a little bit better. So I think so that camp part kind of gets us to do that. And I think the kids enjoy playing when we have camp and we play games in the afternoon. They love the fact that they don't have to, they can't strike out, which is good. Yeah. We make them run bases and make plays. So it's I think that's another part of our game that I think we need to make sure that the kids are getting more of being able to understand situation, being able to make plays, being able to think on their feet. Because again, not every, we can practice bunt defense, but all of a sudden that kid bunts the ball over the pitcher's head and it's somewhere else. What are you going to do? So, it's easy to practice things and say, oh, this is the cookie cutter of what percentage wise could happen, but it's not. Baseball is a strange game. Things don't always happen exactly how we would like them to go.
It's like life. We got to be adaptable. It's like COVID. Everything with COVID taught us. So it's fun. And so, the fun part is that, I don't ever assume anything as well, because I remember my first year coaching at Frederick High School. It's my first year, and I'm not from Frederick. I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania. I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania. I came down here and everybody's like, baseball, like, this is it. This is like the baseball mecca of the world is Frederick, Maryland, right? They had the Babe Ruth World Series over at McCurdy Field and all these things. And I was like, oh, this is great. So my first year I got in, we went over like first and thirds and bunt coverages, but I was like, these guys they're baseball players. They know what to do. First scrimmage, varsity scrimmage, because I hadn't gone over it, was we had a runner at first. Kid hits a routine fly ball to left, and my guy on first is tagging up. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, it's a fly ball. I'm tagging up. And I go, well, yeah, but you're not going to go on that. We're going to, So my biggest thing that I tell a lot of young coaches is don't ever assume that they know what you think they know, because
if you assume that, then bad things are going to happen. So make sure you cover everything and find out what they know, because again, I think I shared a little quote. The one quote I gave you is from my wife, and this was one of my first years of coaching. And I would come home and I go, "Oh, I can't believe this! This kid tagging up at first base, a routine fly ball, or it might be something else." And the one thing that has echoed through my brain for the last 30 years is my wife saying to me, "You're the coach. What are you going to do about it?" So, I'm the guy that's in charge. How are you going to make sure that this doesn't happen again? What types of things are you going to implement to make sure that that they understand how to base run, they understand hitting, they understand all these different things, because ultimately, if it isn't covered, it's me.
Yeah.
It's on me, and because I'm the boss of the program, and I need to make sure that things are taken care of. So
Right.
that's what makes it fun.
Yeah,
So.
but that's all speaks to your leadership too, coach. It speaks to you as your ego. It speaks to all that which you don't have. You're about making kids better, and being about the best person for them, which is incredible because you don't. Sometimes you're like, oh, these kids, and for you, you don't seem like. I mean, I know you mentioned a little bit of how kids now may have not that many instincts, but then what you do is you teach the instincts. You're trying to say, okay, here's what they might not have, but I'm not going to make that an excuse, and you seem to find that. So it's just, it's awesome. It's just, those are the qualities that's why you're such a great coach. But oh man, this has just been, it's been incredible. I want to thank you. I know I know it kind of just went our way. Like I said, that's why I told you about just going our way with the administration, with the Maryland stuff. But, I think the summer camp stuff and your communication, I loved all that about your parents' stuff. I really, I think that's great stuff. I think people don't know how important it is, even at almost any level. Some people, and they don't know how to handle it. So it's great to have a guy like yourself to say, "Hey, here's Coach Rhodes. He's done a great job with Mark. Well, he doesn't have to keep him at a distance. He's able to how he's able to incorporate those things." So I think it's very valuable. It's almost like just as important as like what next drill you're going to do. How are you going to handle these people? And like you said, it came down to trust. And I think that was such an extremely, insightful thing to say. Was that's where it all came from. Like, they have to trust me, and then we all got to trust each other. And I love how you said that. It's such a great point because I've had parent meetings, and to say, I'm not going to ask you like, well, why did you get your phone taken away? Why would your mom do that? That's such a great way to put it. Where because I'm not going to put that divider between you and your parents. And it's a very, very I appreciate it, Coach. I mean, I learned a great deal today as well. Is there any what would be like a great way for anybody likes to say want to talk more about your champion program or anything like that? Can they reach out to you in any way?
Sure, they can email me at philip.rhodes@fcps.org. Now, Philip is with one L. I've had some people that have sent me an email. They're like, "Did you get it yet?" I was like, "No," because most people want to spell Philip with two L's.
Philip with one L .rhodes@fcps.org.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
I would enjoy talking to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've always enjoyed talking to you, Coach. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad we were able to make this happen.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I was looking forward to it. And this was a lot of fun as well.
Again, just can't thank Coach Rhodes enough for the great conversation. It just flowed, man. We went to a different track there with the administration part with him and what he does with the state of Maryland. Don't think people know enough. I know I didn't know enough. You try to assume certain things, or we're all just trying to do the very best we can. And of course, we know we'd love to change the things, and we wish we could make it like this. Coach Rhodes is actually in it, was a part of it. So I think that was a very valuable conversation about how we get things done in our state. And that's one thing I always knew about Coach Rhodes, about his communication and how he does with parents. He's very authentic and lays it out there, but he puts himself out there to have a relationship even with his parents. Of course with his kids, because that's easy, but also to be there for his parents and let him know, and talk about a remarkable thing of his parents actually getting out there and raking the field for them after the game and doing some field work. People thought it's crazy that we have the kids do it sometimes, so, and he's actually got the parents out there doing it, and and to just him wrapping it up there with his summer camp and his words of advice of not assuming anything. I think we get that so far. There's so many. I would say like it's almost a telltale sign for me of a bad coach. Guys I don't really respect. They just assume that this kid's like, well, we'll just the kids will have that by now, and I don't see that with good coaches, man. Good coaches do not left a stone unturned. Good coaches are detail oriented, and like Coach Rhodes said, they just don't assume anything. You're the coach. Do what you need to do, and make sure that you know that they have it. That could be 30 seconds. It could be 3 hours. I really appreciated those advice, and a lot of things that Coach Rhodes said spoke to me, and I'm really glad that we ever have this conversation. He's an absolute Hall of Famer in my book, and I'm hoping he's going to be there one day. Although I know that's not huge on his radar, but that's just something that comes to mind with him. He's a Hall of Fame guy, let alone that he should be in the Hall of Fame for a baseball coach. But again, reach out to Coach Rhodes if you need any more information. Again, it's Philip with one L. Philip with one L. Rhodes, RHODES. Philip.Rhodes at fcps.org. Feel free to reach out to him. He loves talking baseball. And just like I said, champion of men. And can't thank him enough for the conversation. So, until next time, thanks for tuning in. Keep sharing the podcast. I'm glad that people are finding value in it. And if anybody's going to find value in it, then there's a reason to do it. So next week, keep getting better.